It's important to know about our station that's close by us, which is the Topanga station. We have got uh, Captain Lopez with us tonight. And we also have our senior lead officer, Brittney Gutierrez, with us as well. They're going to talk about a number of different things we have going on. I think that I'm going to pin them so that we can get them on the screen rather than me. You don't really need to be seeing me or hearing me. And Brittney, I'll put you up too on that as well. And I think what I would ask Captain, if you would, and also for each of you, if you would let us know what Topanga is all about. What's the story of Topanga's station? What area does it cover? And if you could give us just a little bit of background for you. Most of us have met you before and have seen you. A little bit of your background so everybody knows what you're doing and what's going on, and then we'll get into some of the details, things on it. Captain, although ladies would normally go first, Captain, since you have the rank, I think I better go with you first. So if you can.
Perfect. Good evening, John. Thank you for having me. And
keep your voice up for us. You're a little bit low for us, a little bit louder for us.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
I can. Go
Perfect. Again, thank you, Woodland Hills Homeowners Association, for having me. It's been a couple of months that I've been had the pleasure to talk with you guys. I love being part of this organization because you guys represent very well, and you have a very active and a very large group of people when you do have your meetings. I'll speak a little bit about myself. I'm just over my year here at Woodland Hills in the Topanga area. But I'm not new to the job. I got 34 years on. That's quite a bit of time. You don't see a lot of people sticking around that long with the LAPD. But I'm still have a lot of energy, a lot of interest, and plan on being on around for another 2 years, and plan on being your captain here for the remainder of my time here as a police captain. Topanga Division encompasses 4 communities, that being Woodland Hills, West Hills, Winnetka, and Canoga Park. We serve over 200,000 people in that geographic area. It's about 34 square miles. We cover north of Nordhoff, all the way south to the Mulholland border, and we go all the way to the west of the Ventura and LA County lines of Lost Hills and Calabasas. And we go to east of Winnetka and Shoe. So it's a big area. Again, about 200 officers that I oversee as the commanding officer. That includes uniformed and detectives. So a big place, a lot of officers. I wish I had more, but that's kind of the area that I'm responsible for, which is the west part of the valley and the western part of the city of LA. I want to go over now that you have an area of my responsibility, kind of overall what we did for our crime fighting efforts last year. There's 7 commands in the entire Valley Bureau. We were number 2 overall in crime reduction efforts. Specifically, we did very well in violent crime. Violent crime is a category that encompasses robberies, which is the taking forcibly or through fear of somebody's property. We're talking about ag assaults, which typically is a weapon involved or a significant injury to the victim. We're talking about homicide, and we're talking about rape. We had nearly a 20% reduction compared to last year. Those are significant numbers. And that helped us in our overall park crime reduction of about 6-7% overall for last year's compared to the previous year. The rest of the Part 1 crime is property crime, which involves house burglaries, stolen vehicles, theft overall, and burglary, theft from motor vehicle. Those are the property crimes. Our struggles last year were home burglaries and stolen vehicles. We're doing much better starting this year, which is we're 2 months into that with stolen vehicles. But and we were doing better on the burglary front. And again, a burglary is an entering of a structure. It could be an apartment, could be a single family home, it could be a storage. But specifically where our struggles have been is in the residential of breaking into somebody's residential home. And we continue to see that trend. About 2-3 weeks ago, we've seen a significant not only in the entire valley and not only in the west side of Los Angeles. That has been a historical problem, but we specifically saw a huge increase in the West Hills and the Woodland Hills 2 weeks ago. And I'm not sure if you've seen it on news. We actually were part of a piece from CBS because we saw about 27 burglaries in 1 week's time in that geographic area. The MO, the method of what we're seeing of these crews, and what we're identifying as crew is more than one individual. They seem to be organized. They seem to be a little sophisticated. We've seen an increase in where the suspects are shutting the power down on the house, which shuts down the cameras if they had any. We've seen of the 27, 6 of those homes where powers were shut off. But the past methods where people were knocking, we call them knock burglars, where they were knocking at the door to see if somebody was home. They've changed that MO. So I'm going to give you some things that we're looking at. We actually were part of an arrest of a 4-person crew, and one of the suspects gave us some significant information as to what he looks at when he's driving around your neighborhoods and looking at homes that were going to be potential targets for their crew. They're looking at homes that look unoccupied in the evening hours, which the burglaries are really from the majority of them are from 12 in the afternoon to the later evening of the hours. But those that are in the evening hours, they're looking for lights that are off, a dark home. They're looking for easy targets. They're going into the back of the residence. So they're looking where gates are unsecured, but in many cases they're jumping over the gate, and they're looking for properties that don't have dogs or anything that's going to draw attention to themselves. They will, most of them, we see this well over 80% of them, they're smashing the rear glass window. Many times they're using tools or hard objects that are found in the backyard, and they're smashing the glass. They're going into the residence, they're ransacking. Specifically, many times they'll target the master bedroom where they will looking for the cash, the jewelry, or the guns. But in many cases, they're hitting all of the rooms. They're taking what they can. If it's a crew, one will remain in the car, 2 or 3 will go into the house, and they're typically out in 5 or 6 minutes, back into that vehicle and out of the area. So many of the cases that we've seen over the last 2-3 weeks are sort of meet that criteria, and then we call them organized because they're going from one house to the next, sometimes hitting multiple homes in one area and then moving to another area to elude detection. Unfortunately, our ability to catch these guys is very rare, because in many cases they're using cars that either don't have license plates or are using rental vehicles that are being rented with fictitious information. They are in and out quick. Many homes don't have video, or in many cases they're using concealment on their faces, or they're wearing gloves. So we're not really getting much evidence to detect who these people are. And they're hitting all over the valley. They're jumping from the east of the valley to the west of the valley, and in many cases west Los Angeles. So that's kind of what we've seen so far. John, there's a video that I've provided to you. If we can show that video now, and I'll speak a little bit on what you guys can do to ensure that you guys lessen that your house is the one that's going to get preyed upon.
Suspects may jump over your gate or fence, so always make sure you follow these crime prevention tips. Always conduct a perimeter check when leaving your residence or going to bed. Make sure all your gates and garage doors are locked, that all your exterior lighting is turned on around your house. Make sure your garage doors are down and locked. Make sure your alarm system is set and your cameras are working properly. Make sure all your doors and windows are locked and secured. Please bolt down your safes. Safes can still be taken if they are not bolted down to the floor. Here are other tips that will help and harden the target. Place cameras inside the garage. Have access to live stream on your cameras. Cut back any overgrowth on trees or bushes around your house. Camera systems recommended are smart cameras that allow you to live stream. For more crime prevention tips, please follow us on social media.
Thank you, John, for that. So we are trying to put this information out on a weekly basis, different tips on how to secure your house better, to ensure that they're not going to hit your house and they'll go somewhere else. If you can make your house look as lived in as possible, that's not the house they're looking for. They're looking for easy targets, and they're looking for homes that don't have anybody in it. So if you can, in the evening hours, keep the lights on, keep maybe a radio on. In the daytime hours, if you can ensure everything is secured, the gates are secured. If you can ensure that you don't have mail piling up, that your trash is baskets are not in front of your house. Those are the homes that they're looking for. Make sure you're talking to your neighbors. Make sure that when you do talk to your neighbors, that if you see a car that doesn't belong in the neighborhood, if you see people sitting in those cars checking out neighborhoods, you guys are our best eyes. You guys are our best intel. Unfortunately, we're getting these calls so late after the game. We're getting the calls once the burglary is already done, and at that point, as I indicated, there's not much evidence, and we're not able to really do much to solve the crime. But if we can, as a neighborhood, share this information, know your neighbors, talk to one another, and report the incident, report the suspicious car before it becomes victimized. That is your best bet, so we can get a unit up there to talk to those people, find out what they're doing, and maybe prevent that house from being burglarized. One
Captain,
thing.
a quick question to you. I'm
Yep.
hearing, since you're talking about the cameras, we've heard some difficulties with some of the night cameras that are out there that just are able to shoot like in black and white. And apparently that's not giving you any kind of real definitive video of being able to identify someone. Is it your suggestion that you need something clear of that they need to be basically a good color,
Yeah.
4K camera that's at nighttime outside?
Yeah, there is huge improvements in facial recognition systems that we have as a department. Unfortunately, so few of the quality that we get from the video, we're basically not being able to identify the suspect outside of clothing, and maybe get some uniqueness about the clothing or the shoes that they might be wearing off those black and white videos or those nondescript, poor quality videos. But like I said, the department statewide has a great system of when we take booking photos of people that have been arrested, their photos are taken and it puts into a statewide system where we have a face recognition system. If the quality is good enough, we'll be able to identify certain suspects. But I would say less than 1 or 2% of the video that we see, if there even is video, we're able to identify the suspect through that facial recognition system.
Are you finding that most of the break-ins are being done basically on the flatlands, or they're up in the hillsides, or one versus the other? Seem to be a location that they're after.
We're seeing it all over in all 4 parts of the community. I can't say the hills are a specific target, but what we do see when these crews come in is they're looking for an easy access to the 101 freeway. So those homes that are north or south of the 101, which is typically going to be your Woodland Hills, your West Hills area, they're getting off the freeway, they're committing their crimes rather quickly, and they're jumping back on the freeway, and in most cases heading south on the 101 out of the area. So we as a department are looking to get license plates readers that will help us a lot if we're able to identify a vehicle with those license plate readers, put it in a certain area that at least gives us some follow-up to identify these suspects. Unfortunately, they cost money. My plea is if you have interest in your department getting those things, is speak with your councilman and show him that you are interested in a community to get those at least on the freeways. We know that's what's happening, but unfortunately, we don't have most of those on and off ramps with any kind of video camera or any kind of license plate reader. So those would definitely help us.
I understand I think it was over in Encino, they put in some of the license plate cameras there to assist in a neighborhood that was getting hit quite often, 3 and 4 times in one particular block. Is that something that is easily available, or is that going to take a long time for us to get the council member to get funding to get those things up and running? If the community seems to feel that they've got an excessive attack that's going on. What do they need to do in order to try to get those cameras in place?
So the ones that you're speaking about that Encino got several months ago, Encino was getting really hard, similar to what we had happened last week. Those are mobile license plate readers. The department only has a small number of those. Each bureau has one or two of those, and that's what Encino got were those two. But they're requested. The valleys hit all over the place, so they're being moved from division to division. What I'm talking about is more permanent, a stationary license plate reader that does not move, that's consistently gathering plates on vehicles that are bypassing and being used in crime. That's what I'm looking for. The department is making the efforts to get more and more of those, but again, we need to get the financial support and the community support to make that happen.
Tell me about whether or not there's any follow home burglaries going on. That was we had the knock knocks before, and then we had the follow homes going on as well. Is that out of vogue now at this point in time, or is that still around?
Yeah, when we say follow home, those are typically indicative of robberies, not burglaries. A robbery is a forcible taking of a person's property. With the follow home robberies, they were identifying their victims at restaurants. They were looking at the kind of jewelry they were displaying. They were looking at the kind of money. They were basically watching high end targets at high end restaurants or hotels, following them to their residence, and either doing some kind of a deployment of stopping that car or waiting for them to get home, and then committing either an armed robbery or a physical robbery of those persons' property, then jumping in the car and leaving. So that was more. We haven't seen that as often. We have not seen that in our area. Like I said, robberies, we had a significant reduction compared to last year, and right now we're beginning to still see that trend where that is not a very popular crime. It's more of the attack on people's homes, and they're looking for targets where people are not home.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, I got yelled at by our senior lead officer Brittney at one point because I had what it was very clear to me was a follow home with me, and kept following around, and it was a car that I didn't recognize up in the hillsides, and it of course didn't go into our house, into the garage, went around the block and went into a roadway and method that nobody would follow. Just nobody does that. And this car followed, and as soon as they recognized, I think, that I was following them or knew that they were following us, they took off. But I mentioned it to Brittney at one point, and she says, "Did you call it in?" I'm going, "No, I felt kind of silly. I didn't know that, it didn't seem like I could say it was an absolute or what have you." And the comment was basically, if you don't call it in, we don't know those things are going on in the area and can't really watch for it. And so I think that's it certainly was an education to me, and I think to all of our members and listeners, that if something is unusual in your neighborhood that just seems out of sorts, call it in. Let's get a record of it at least, so that if there's some kind of a pattern that's going on, that it can be addressed. Am I off base on that, or is that helpful to both of you?
No, you're right on, John. If you don't say anything, it's never going to get reported. It's never going to get investigated, and that's what the criminals are looking for: unreported crime. Communities that don't care enough to call it in. I'm not saying that because you call something. I know anybody who's called the 911 system or the 311 system, they're long holes, and even if you do get through, the response time can be long. But eventually, we will get to you, and if we have some license plate or we have a description of a car, that can make the difference on solving a crime. Back to the license plate readers. Council district to your north, which is 12.
Councilman
They were able to secure over 100 LPR license plate readers in that community.
Whoa.
Yes,
What
which
kind of
is
cost? What kind of cost is that?
because I only have a small piece of Councilman Lee's piece. We secured in the West Hills area of his council district only, I believe, 10 of those cameras. So the majority went to Devonshire Division, which so I wasn't part of those talks. I don't know what the costs were behind that, but he managed to put that together with the police department and money that he had secured in his area. And the dividends, I'm telling you, are going to be twofold when it comes to investigations after the fact. So
I guess I'm asking about the cost on that. So if it's outrageous, maybe we can find and bug our council member to get some there too. Do you have any idea what those cameras are to get one of those out and distribute?
No, I don't want to be throwing any numbers out and be incorrect, and then you guys are going to
Okay.
hold me to those numbers. So
Well, fair enough.
but
I think it's something that we need to talk with our council
Can I
member.
ask a question here, John?
Yep, Marty, go ahead. I didn't see your hand up. Go right
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Captain, can you tell
Yes.
us what the key hours are during the day, and what are the key days during the week where you're seeing the most um, um, home break-ins, thefts, etc.? So that
Correct.
at least the people that are listening in will have some idea when to really stay alert.
Yeah, so again, most of your burglars are looking for homes that are unoccupied. People are typically home on the weekends, so the larger spikes are going to be those hours when people are at work. So after 12 o'clock, we see a spike of homes getting broken into, and then in the evening hours where they're using the ability to see a house that's dark as a sign that nobody is home, because people who don't have video cameras and that can tell us exactly when the crime occurred. Most burglaries are going to be a time zone, so we don't know exactly when that house got burglarized. All they know is they left to work at 8 o'clock and they got back that evening at 8 o'clock. So when it actually occurred is a guess. But those that were able to put cameras on and those criminals that we're able to interview, that's kind of what they're looking for.
Interesting with the cameras, though. Are they using some kind of blocking things to turn those cameras off, or is it just because they turn off the electricity?
It's rare. We haven't seen, or we have not had at least the evidence to say that they're using a jamming device to jam the actual cameras themselves. What we can know is that they did hit the power box to the house. So that's easily detected by the owner because their power is obviously shut down, and they go back there and they can see that it's shut down.
What?
If they used a device that's a little bit harder, depending on the camera systems that you have, that would give you a notification that your video cameras have been compromised, or your internet has been compromised. So that's a little bit harder to detect by the homeowner. But we have made arrests when people have jammers, as they would call them. But I think it's easier for them to just hit the power box, because that's an easy thing to do.
Well, it seems like if you're going to have a camera outside, you should have one that is battery operated, number one, and number two, has got a device in it that allows people to be able to record on them straight up. I think we have a question that's coming in from Timothy. Timothy, you can unmute yourself.
Awesome, thank you.
Good.
Okay, so yeah, more just a question or a comment. I got hit in November 2023, and we have 8 or 9 Ring cameras, and they did get jammed by a Wi-Fi jamming device. And the way we knew it was on the Ring cams for about 15 minutes, it said signal unavailable, and then they went back up. But during the actual burglary, the video cameras were not able to record anything.
Well, I think it's good advice for everybody to be watching out on what things are going on in our around our home, and making sure that we can harden the best we can, and recognize that people want to get your stuff. If they can find a way to do it, they're going to go ahead and do
That's
it.
right.
And that's sort of the key to it at all. Well,
So John, if I can speak on to what are we doing about it as a command? So we're obviously responsive. We understand what's going on, and believe me, I've been a victim of a burglary myself, and I know it sucks. I know it
you
sucks
as
to know
well?
somebody. Oh yeah, I live in the valley, and it's been a while since my house has been burglarized, but I know how it feels. So
How dare
I'm,
they?
I'm I know it doesn't go unnoticed to your captain that how it feels to get burglarized. So people think sometimes, well, we focus on the violent crime, but it's just as personal when somebody goes in your house and steals your things. So I get it, and I'm definitely sensitive to where I deploy my officers. We are a smaller department, so I have to be judicious as to where I put my units. But unfortunately, we're in a position where the cars don't have a whole lot of available time to do extra patrol. They're bouncing from call to call.
How
So
many units do we have out and available in the West Valley now?
every not and now in Topanga area, West Valley is another division, but I know what you're talking about, the West Valley part of the valley. Topanga on our day, it varies from watch to watch, and it varies from day to day. But typically during a 12-hour shift, we'll have about, on the high end, about seven patrol cars in an entire area. That would be our minimum that I want to put out there.
And what's your response time now?
It's depending on code 3 emergency. Those are typically under 10 minutes. Non-coded, non-emergency, it's up to an hour. And that's a moving target. It varies from month to month, and every division's got a different response time.
So
And
it
then
sounds
some-
like we're better off on protecting ourselves up front so that we don't have to call you and not have to go through that emergency calls on things. So the better we can do about partying our houses, the better we can do.
Yep. So,
Well-
so what I was heading to is, what I'm trying to do is, we have reserve officers that are many times they're retired, or they're people that are look like uniformed officers. They go through similar training that we go through, and we put them in black and whites. And I'm putting them as a resource out there, because a burglar is going to go to a different area if they see a roving unit in an area. But second is, Topanga has been, we've been chosen to be a test site for the drone program. It's been an extremely successful program in other cities. The city of LA is finally going to introduce it and test it to see if it's a viable option to have drones respond quicker to radio calls such as a burglary in progress. This goes back to the timeliness of a neighbor who detects a suspicious activity that's going on, or a burglary in progress, to get on the horn, make the call out so we can get the drone rolling in that direction, give the officers eyes as to what's going on, and so that we have a more expeditious response to the unit that may be handling something else in the area, to know that the drone is picking up actual suspects in and around the house or leaving the house, where the drone will take the suspect's vehicle away, and hopefully the patrol cars can catch it as it's moving through the information that the drone is giving them. So it's been proven a great tool in other cities. And John, I know we have another video. I want you guys to kind of take a look about what this looks like. And I believe the video we have is from San Francisco PD.
This may be the wrong one. Is this the correct one?
Yes. No, that's the
Your
other.
sliding doors are a popular target for burglars. Always lock and secure your rear sliding doors. Make sure your security cameras are working. Always close your garage door. Close and secure your windows. Lock and secure your house doors. Make sure your side gates are locked and secure and your floodlights are working properly. Always set your home alarm. Follow us on social media.
It looks like that's not the zone, the one that you had expected on that one, Captain.
It is not. Okay, so you don't have the other video?
I do not. I only have those two videos. That one and the other one. Those are the only two.
Okay.
I have. What I do have from you, I do have a brochure that you had sent out that is available, that does show some information, I think, concerning the drones itself, if I'm not mistaken.
So John, we'll get you that video, and we can
Okay.
hopefully find some time to show it next month, about the advantages of having the drone program. But I just wanted to put that out there, that Topanga is one, and West LA is the other one. The only two divisions that are going to be testing these drone programs as a support mechanism for patrol. It's going to be, the policy is not out yet regarding how that works out, the limitations of it. And I know there's always concerns about privacy and the noise those things make. Anybody that owns a drone knows that there is limitations on it. It's just an added resources similar to a helicopter. Definitely makes a lot less noise than a helicopter, but doesn't have, obviously, it's got the eyes in the skies, in the sense that you have an officer working out of a control room, utilizing the camera on the drone to telling the officers what he sees in regards to suspects, vehicles, and direction last traveled. It doesn't have the ability to keep up with a car that speeds away. There are limitations on that speed, but also the policy will be judicious as to how it is used. It's not going to be used to be a source of gathering information on individuals unless they're involved in a crime. I wish I had the policy in front of me and we could go over that details of those people that do have concerns. And believe me, the police commission shares those concerns of your community. So whatever policies put out, believe me, they are sensitive to concerns of privacy, and we'll be asking all those questions to ensure that there's no violations of people's freedoms in the sense of us as a department using it to gather intel on people that are not involved in criminal
Well, I think
activity.
that's probably one of the biggest concerns about it, that they figure that it's being utilized just in certain areas and to attack certain type of people in certain areas. And therefore, there's privacy concerns on that. I just did put up the brochure that you had sent out to us as well, and that's also attached to our newsletter, which will be up online next week. But if you have any other materials that would indicate what some of the policies and procedures are, that would be good to share with our membership. I'll be happy to put those up on the website too. I think it's an important issue. Are these drones very large? They're not the little small ones that everybody sees that they hold in their hand. These are some pretty good sized drones.
Yeah, they're obviously not going. They're not nearly. If you've seen the military drones, those are almost the size of a car. These are probably 2 to 3 times bigger than your typical small one that are handheld ones. Um, they have a limited flying time in where they have to come down and recharge their batteries. And obviously, there's concerns that the policy will have to address regarding if it goes down. How do we handle that? Is it an FAA concern? Is it a notification? Whatever damage it may cause. There's a lot of things that they're going to be looking at regarding that policy. Again, we won't be the first agency. There's several agencies that have been using it for years, and other agencies that are looking at us to see how we're going to use it. But I'm excited that Topanga is going to be one of the divisions that have it because of the prolific burglaries that we have in the area. I think it's going to be a great tool to help coppers respond in a more timely manner to catch these guys.
Are these going to be deployed from the Topanga station, or are they going to be more deployed remotely by going out with a vehicle to a particular location, use there, or is it going to be a little bit of both?
It's going to be both. It's going to be both because the command is so big, and they do have limitations as to how far they can fly. We're looking at maximum use of them in the air. So I believe they're looking at 2 different locations. One more where the station is on the northern part of our jurisdiction, and we're going to have one more centralized around Topanga and Van Owen area on one of the elevated buildings.
I understood with some of them were in use that because they can obviously fly faster with the police cars can get there, that you can deploy them right away if there's a call at a particular location, get the drones over that location, see what's really going on, whether or not they need to have more than just 1 or 2 police cars responding, or what the situation is, or whether or not it's just a hoax or what have you. Is that sort of the intent of it as well from a practical day-to-day aspect with it?
Exactly. As you know, many of the calls that we get are not actual crimes as reported by the person that's calling, or the suspects are gone, or it's just not accurate to what is being described. So that drone, especially in the hills, will get there much quicker than a police car can, and will give an account to what's actually happening out there. So it's a great tactical tool and for the safety of the officers, and gives them an idea of what's going on before they go into a situation that's dark and firsthand as to what they're seeing.
I'm assuming they're not in any way going to be weaponized. You're not putting any type of explosive
Absolutely not.
devices or weapons on them in any fashion.
Absolutely not. Nope.
Julie, you've got a question. Julie, go ahead. You should be unmuted.
Hi there, thank you. I was wondering, are these cameras on the drones, are they broadcasted live via Bluetooth technology? And where does it go exactly? Like, what is the range of a recording device nearby to document this video? And how long is that delay? Are the drones also weaponized with any sort of intervention, such as a speaker or smoke? Can you only use those for being eyes on the ground?
Lots of questions there, and I'll try to answer them all. As to the last part, they are not weaponized. There's no smoke. There's no deterrent to the suspects at all. It's just an eye in the sky, it should be a live view to the operator who will be a sworn officer. They're not going to be attached they're not going to be under me. They're a specialized unit that will be working out of my building, but with their own supervisor. And as the drone is up, it's going to be a live feed to the operator officer that's controlling that drone, who is not only looking at what he's looking at, he'll be broadcasting that information to the responding units.
All right, so it's not being broadcast to the general public, however.
Correct.
Okay. Very interesting. It seems like this is going to be, we're entering the 21st century, I guess, in a lot of ways on some of the law enforcement abilities. I know it's been deployed in some of the locations, and it's been helping some of the police forces there too. But are they going to be using other type of cameras, like for infrared, for example, or heat-seeking ones, to where they can, again, I don't know much about technology, but I understand some of the heat-seeking ones can actually look into buildings and see where the heat signatures are inside.
I don't think, again, the policy's not there. We're still testing out 2 companies. They've not talked to me about infrared. Our helicopters utilize that when they're looking for a suspect for body signatures and whatnot. I'm sure that is available for drones. But again, we're testing different companies out still, and that has not been mentioned to me that that's going to be a tool that's going to be available for them at this time. But John, as you alluded to, this is the way of the future. That might be something that becomes available later on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the heat seeker ones I know from the helicopter, they can actually see footprints on the ground of where people have walked from, or if
Yes.
they've been hiding on the ground someplace and have left that, they can get a signature from that as well.
Yes, sir.
Andrew, you've got a question there. If you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask. Go ahead.
Hi, yes. Thanks for taking my question. Hello, Captain.
Andrew, hello.
We had Bob Blumenfeld on in our last meeting, and I asked him a specific question, and he gave me what seemed to be an honest answer, and that since the new mayor came in and you guys were hiring at a much higher starting wage to try to get more officers in the system, but the current number was actually lower. 8,350 officers citywide now, as opposed to when the mayor was elected. What's the number that you're shooting for, that you want in your area? You said you had 200 now. What are you looking for, another 100, or what? I guess when the department was operating at 10,000 officers, what did the West Valley station have?
I was not part of West Valley. Again, Topanga, West Valley, 2 different stations. So
I'm sorry.
I know what you're talking. People misuse that term because there is a station called West Valley that is east of us. So Topanga. I've been in Topanga for a year. I do remember when the department was 10,000. And I was a captain when it was 10,000. What that meant was not only did I have additional resources, we have minimum numbers of patrol units that we put out. That's a hard number that the department puts on me to ensure that we have those numbers out. And if I'm unable to based on officers calling in sick, then I'm allowed to offer up overtime to meet that minimum number. When we were at 10,000. That gave me additional units, what we would call as an X car, an extra car or a Z car that would deploy in areas such as this that are not radio cars and held to handle radio calls. They're there to support specific missions like burglaries in an area, and that would be their job for that 12-hour shift, is to stay in that area, deter criminals and arrest criminals on a specific crime. So that's what the 10,000 extra resources gave me for my little piece of those extra resources. That also gave me larger gang units. That gave me more narcotic units, more vice units. That just gave me a whole lot of extra units to do the specialized work that we don't have anymore. We're bare bone on all those specialized units now. A very, very small operating source that most of anything extra is now committed to patrol units.
Julie, you've got a question too. You can go ahead and ask as well.
Hi there. Thanks again.
Julie, you just muted yourself.
That was me that did that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. Go ahead, Julie.
Hi. Thank you so much, John. And thank you, Captain. I'm wondering about the airspace and the search warrants. Does the homeowner have any rights to deny access, the drones access to entering the airspace above their property and even access onto their property, say the airspace that's inside their house, like under the roof and, within their four walls? Do the drones enter the open door or the window gently, or do they break through the windows similar to the way like a SWAT team might break a door down?
Julie, thank you for your question. You're speaking about a drone program that would be utilized by a SWAT team. I'm not speaking about that whatsoever. SWAT teams they have been using drones. Our specific SWAT team have been using that. And you talk about warrants, you talk about how they enter. Completely different animal whatsoever. I don't work anymore for that SWAT unit, so I can't answer those questions regarding what they look for on that warrant. We're not involved in that whatsoever. We are specific to radio calls only, and the open airspace where a generated radio call of a crime in progress, where we would be using that. We're not going into anybody's home with our drones.
Interesting that there's actually two different programs, one going on from SWAT. I'm assuming that's obviously it's different function, different purposes for what they're doing, and you're just gathering basic information in the neighborhood is what it sounds like when there's a crime that's been reported, as opposed to going after the actual criminal like they might do with SWAT.
Correct. Correct.
Doug, you got a question too, Doug. Go ahead. Doug, I see you got your hand up and you are unmuted. Go ahead with your question.
Who are you? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was me.
Go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
Thank you, John and Captain. We have a serious party house problem on our street. This is Del Moreno, just down from Ventura, across from Taft High School and next to a preschool. And we've been dealing with them for 2 or 3 years, extremely rowdy, loud parties, which block the street. This is the part that shocks me. The last one, I actually went down there to see what was happening, and there were, 50 cars from left to right blocking the whole street. There was a police car there. There were 2 officers, I assume from Topanga Division, who seemed, they didn't seem to have any powers over the situation. It's illegal to block a street, isn't it?
It is.
You even need all the process involved in. We were told we have to cite the party, that I or my neighbors have to cite. This is the last thing we heard. We have to cite. Nobody here knows how to do that. How do you cite them? And why do we need to? It's already illegal to block a street, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure why you feel, or why somebody told you have to cite. You don't have enforcement powers. You don't do any citing. All citing is done either by the police department or by a building and safety for violations of use or ABC violations. There's several penal code and LAMC codes that police officers can cite, not the public. What is going on with your location? It is illegal to utilize, especially on those chronic locations. So it sounds like you might have an Airbnb rental party house, which it does pop out on occasion. You need to put that on the radar of your senior lead officer, which I believe might be, if you're near El Camino High School, might be Slow Fernandez. So we'll get you that. We'll get your contact information through John. We'll put a plan together, because to shut down these more prolific residentials that are having parties for pay, it is a process. But the PD, the coppers that roll to these locations, need to understand this is a chronic, ongoing problem and not just a overnighter issue where they can be a lot more lenient, and just advise the owners to shut the party down and to clear the location. But for those problem locations that are having these parties week after week, the slow The senior lead officer needs to be part of that process. We need to get the owners of those properties involved. We need to get the city attorney involved. Back in the day, we had neighborhood prosecutors, which helped a lot, but the city attorney does not afford that ability anymore. So a lot of the powers to get the city attorney involved with those owners have been taken away from my senior lead officers. So the process is a little more complicated. We just had a similar house that you just described over on Winnetka. You probably saw it all over the news, where it was 300 plus kids of, it wasn't only kids, there was people of all walks, most of them not even city residents. They came from all over the county. And it ended up with a shooting with security guards and a suspect that had a gun. One person was killed, 7 were wounded. It was just a horrible incident, and it was from a party just as you just described. But when we started asking the neighbors, they were aware of the party, but not one person has called PD in months. So these parties were going on every week, but not one person was calling, taking the time to call the police. So we need you to call. We need you to make that point, get the senior lead involved, and help us do something about the problem.
And that seems to be a problem that's beginning to develop with the Airbnbs, especially in some of these other locations. That was too bad. I was at the 5900 block over in Winnetka, and that was a 16-year-old kid that was killed over there. Yep. And I'm curious from Brittney and also from you, Captain, whether or not we're finding a lot more of these party houses that are around, or is this just kind of a, it happens once in a while and oh well, or is this something that's really beginning to blossom and we're getting more and more people showing up at these that are creating problems?
Well, it's not new. These Airbnb rentals of these larger houses, this has been going on for years now. But it only becomes a problem until you have a problem such as that happened, or until the neighbors call about it. So again, and Britt can speak about it more since she's got the pulse of the neighborhood. But I think she would agree with me, until the neighborhood has had enough, and you got to call when the parties are happening. We need to document this stuff. It just strengthens our ability to meet with the city attorney to get some bite against the owner that's allowing this to happen.
Brittney, can you add to us as to what?
Yes, can I add to that? Absolutely, absolutely. So this residence that's on Del Moreno. So I have cited this residence, but I will tell you this. When I go to the city attorney tells me, get me a call log of the last year and show me how many radio calls were generated to that location. Let me know how many neighbors are calling, and if it's just one neighbor, I need to know. And the reason why that's important is because if it's just one neighbor calling, it's more of a neighbor dispute in the eyes of the city attorney, right? But if it's multiple neighbors that are calling and saying that there's chronic parties, that there's parties every weekend, there's parties in and out of this home, that's when the city attorney will assist me, because then it's affecting the entire community. It's not just one person calling. So in regards to Del Moreno, I provided that to the city attorney, and there was only 5 radio calls. That's not a chronic issue. Right? So, and it was only 2 people had called. What second person that had called 3 times, but each time officers, I looked at the dispo of the calls, and officers, it's at their discretion. So when they arrive at the party, and let's just say, originally the call came out an hour ago. Officers get there. By that time, the party's not as loud as when the community member had generated that radio call. So they go and they can give a warning, say, hey, you need to turn the music down. If you don't turn the music down and we come back again, we can cite. So I have made Del Moreno a special location, and there is special instructions for when officers do go to that location. And basically it's a premise hazard / special location, meaning that if there is a party going on at that location, I do request officers to cite. Can I force officers to cite? No, I can't. If I do find out that the officers did not cite, I will go back the next day and I will cite on an ace. I have been in constant contact with the owner of this Airbnb and the property manager of the Airbnb, and they have a firm understanding that they're going to be cited. If they're cited 3 times within a 6-month period, we could post a notice on their door that basically no one can rent that Airbnb for 30 days. That homeowner that I've spoken to does not want that. It seems that this Airbnb does seem to have these parties when it is holidays. So I definitely will start sending out emails to patrol that when these holidays are coming up, if Del Moreno does become a radio call, I need them to cite.
Well, it seems that the approach from the neighborhood is if there is a party house going on like that, we should have all the telephone numbers of our neighbors around the area. And if something gets up, have all of them start calling. Call the neighbors first and tell the neighbors to start calling. So there's multiple calls. I mean, this, as a lawyer, I'm telling you, these are public nuisance. And as a public nuisance, when you have enough of those requests to the city attorney, they can come in and stop them. And individuals do have a right to go in and sue them too for public nuisance and have someone stop with injunctions. That's an expense to do. The police department is much better off in handling that. We don't want to have any repercussions coming about because a neighbor is doing something to another neighbor's house by trying to do something legally on that, but rather let the police department take care of it and do not use self-help. Self-help is probably gets people in more problems than anything else. I'm assuming you don't want the next door neighbor running over to the Airbnb and telling them to stop.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't work out well.
And again, too, with if I can add, with the Airbnb, I have already put this house on I have flagged this house with Airbnb. I've also flagged it with different residents that can rent out these Airbnbs, right? But the thing is that it's only me that's flagging this. I have to have the neighborhood also reach out to Airbnb and these other different entities that allow these homes to be rented, because if it's only coming from one person, which is me, and it's not coming from the residents, the Airbnb, they look at it as if it's just law enforcement, and it's not a chronic issue.
Well, so they need to contact Airbnb
Absolutely.
directly themselves as well.
Absolutely.
Marty, you've got a question? We'll get some of these questions.
Oh, wait, Scott,
Marty,
Scott had his hand. Scott had his hand up before.
All right, Scott, go ahead. You unmute yourself, buddy. There you go.
Thank you. I have just a couple of questions. Could you explain? You said that Topanga Station basically has as many as 7 patrol cars out patrolling. I guess is not a valid word anymore, because it sounds like there is no patrol. You're just chasing down calls. So, can I ask you, how are the number of patrol cars and officers? How is that determined in the city? Does 12 get more than 3? Does 10 get, how is that done?
There's an algorithm that our Office of Operations, the experts that look at 21 different things, from population to call load to size of the area, 21 different things, and they put all this into a master computer, and that they look at previous calls from the previous year. They put all this. They look at the type of crimes. All these different things go into this large computer, and that gives them a constant of where they want a minimum number of cars per division and per watch.
So I'm assuming we're on the low end of the city as to number of actual patrol vehicles and officers.
That would be correct, Scott. This is a chronic thing that's been going historically with the ask of the valley, from ultimately the chief who oversees the entire department as to what division gets what number and how many and the factors that go into. And I think your ask is like every other community. They want more, but we have that big pool is a smaller number as it was 4 years ago. So the algorithm puts out that number, and that gives you that minimum, but that's kind of what goes into that equation.
Does it help at all for us to be complaining to either you or to our city councilman?
No, because ultimately it's that master computer is every councilman is probably asking for more, and every captain is asking for more, as I do. It's a constant conversation I have with my chief, but every command wants more, but there's no more to give. If I can be blunt and honest with you.
Outside my office building this past week, there was a chase came to an end, literally right on Ventura Boulevard by Sepulveda. There were no less than 20 patrol cars, and it had to have been 30 or 40 officers there. How did that many come together? For one, to stop one guy in a tow truck, but where did they all come from to have that kind of volume crash in on this one little scene?
Yeah, so I don't know how long the pursuit. I don't know what triggered the original call and why the units were following or pursuing and where it started. If you get a lengthy pursuit and it's a shooting suspect, you're going to get more interest. You're going to get more, and depending where they're driving all over the division, all over the city, we'll get more and more people. And then ultimately, the pursuit culminates at a traffic accident. Unfortunately, many times they'll hit an individual in the intersection, which will stop the pursuit. And you have all of these units that were initially at one point, as this car's driving from division to division, probably picking up interested units. So what you saw there is not one division. There's no way, because I don't have that many cars. These are 3 or 4 divisions that were probably involved at one point in this pursuit that ending up at this termination of the pursuit.
Could I ask you about, you mentioned the drones, and you also said that a sworn officer is going to be at the helm of the drone.
Yes, sir.
Does that mean that we're going to lose a patrol officer to somebody sitting in front of a camera, in front of the TVs? And I don't mean that in any derogatory way. So why can't you use reserves or civilians as opposed to a sworn officer to view the cameras?
Yeah, a good question, Scott. The department put out a request for officers that were interested in this program. I think 100 plus officers were interested. They narrowed it down to 10. None of them came from Topanga, so I'm not losing any of my officers to this program. What I'm gaining, and I'm going to be selfish about it, I'm gaining the whole drone program. Even though the coppers will not be assigned to me, they are going to be eyes that will help me crime fight the problems that I have in my division. So I'm not going to argue it. I'm getting this resource, and it's a good thing because it didn't come out of my hide where I had to give a patrol officer out to provide these resources. Where did they came from? They came from all over the city. Some of them were probably in administrative positions. Some were in patrol. It's not my program, so I don't know exactly where they came from, but I can tell you they didn't come from my hide.
Okay, one more. Yeah, just one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Today, we were talking about hardening the homes and being able to defend yourself. And today, our illustrious assembly fortunately shot down Bill AB 1333, which would have severely impacted your right to defend yourself, your property, and it was basically going to take away any strength you had towards self-defense. And the word got out, and word got out quickly, and they actually pulled that bill. But I'm sure it's going to come back. So I just want the people that are watching this to understand that this is an assembly bill, and we urge you to call your assembly person to back off this one. It's Jesse Gabriel at 818-380-2460. Call his office and tell him not to take away your right to defend yourself. Basically, you'd have to let somebody hit you over the head with a bat before you could defend yourself, and prove to whoever you have to after the case that person was trying to hurt you or kill you before you could defend yourself.
Just so we're clear,
that was shot down today, and it will be back.
Just so we're clear, Scott, the Woodland Hills homeowners has not taken a position on that. That's your personal opinion at present.
That is my personal opinion. Yes,
doesn't mean
I
we're not going to
apologize
pick it up and what have you. Marty, you got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I will just
John,
Yes,
not to interrupt Marty, but if I could just add 2 pieces to what Scott was saying,
Please.
and I speak from the heart. When people bring guns, when they purchase guns for home protection, we just had a burglary of a home in your area there where the owner had over 100 guns in his house, and it was burglarized, and the suspects took over 80 guns. Now, these are guns that are on the street now because the owner did not secure them properly. He had them in a safe, but a very weak cabinet where multiple suspects were able to take multiple guns. My plea is, if you're going to bring a gun into the equation, in most cases, when homes are burglarized, they take the gun. And now that's another gun in the street that my coppers and the community are dealing with that shouldn't be out there. So if you're going to buy a gun, make sure you secure it in a safe where burglars are not going to take it. If you're going to bring a gun, make sure you train with that gun, and you're qualified to and expect to use it. Don't buy a gun if you don't, in your mind, have the confidence, the skill set, and the nerve to pull that trigger if you need to defend your life. I have too many people buying guns because they think it's cool and they can do this, but it just becomes a problem. And now we end up dealing with it in the street in the hands of a suspect. So I just want to throw that out there.
But I just want to say that the legislation did not specifically state guns. It just said as a matter of self-defense. So whatever manner of self-defense you're going to use, you have to be able to literally plead your case that it was self-defense, regardless of what it is. If you could just, tackle the person,
Correct.
you would have to prove that your life was in danger.
And these are very complicated issues on that. And I can certainly guarantee you as a lawyer that those are issues that come up all the time on what is and what isn't. So just be aware that weapons are not always the answer to these things. Making sure you're never going to be in a position to where you have that type of assault on you is the bigger issue. So protect yourselves in the long run of that too. Marty, you've got a question. I see your hands back down.
Yeah, I had two.
Go ahead, sir.
One short, one longer. The short one would be whatever happened to the arsonist or attempted arsonist or suspected arsonist for the Kenneth fire, who was grabbed by locals and turned over. I think Officer Dempsey had him at the beginning, but we've never heard anything. I've asked a couple of other LAPD and nobody seems to know. It just seems to have disappeared and nobody mentions. That's the first question. The second is,
can I answer that one?
Sure.
Marty, you're going to hear it from my mouth. I can tell you exactly what happened to him. So the fire that you're talking about was determined to have occurred in Ventura County, not in LA City. So that was determined by the arsonist. That gave them the preview and the lead on the investigation, not LAPD, not LA sheriffs, but Ventura County sheriffs. Their arson team responded. The suspect was in our custody at Topanga Station. They are the lead, and their arsonist determined that they did not have enough evidence to put him as the arsonist to that fire. So he did have a probation or parole hold. He was wanted. So we, LAPD, took the lead on that handle, and we booked him accordingly. And he was booked for the probation, and then what happened after that is on probation to continue with the violation. And I don't know if he's in custody at this point.
Okay.
Second question, Marty.
Yeah, the other question is, Los Angeles and especially here in the West Valley, we had an awful lot of smash and grabs. What is the situation now with that? I know, a lot of stores have put everything behind plexiglass, made it impossible for you to browse. But I'm sure it's cut down on a lot of the problems. But what's going on with smash and grabs? Have we had many of them? And are the current rules and regulations helping stem that situation with business?
It is. To answer your question, it is changes in legislation and creation of new legislation to make it an organized new change, and putting felonies behind it, changed the ability to, when we arrested these folks, when they were identified, to give them some felony and some serious jail time. And the state, along with our locals, put some task force together, and they did some really great work to identify these crews that were going into major stores and smashing and taking high-end items. To answer your first part, have we seen a reduction? Yeah, we haven't had any this year, and I'm speaking for my jurisdiction, which is the Topanga Mall or the outlets or Fallbrook Mall. For that entire area, we are one of the largest business areas for the entire city with our malls. We only had 3 last year in 2023, and the previous year we saw 7. So it is a topic of mine because they are so vivid and they are so violent in many cases. So the media gets hold of those videos and they show it over and over again, and they make it appear like it's a systemic issue and a crime that's occurring regularly. I was in a restaurant the other day speaking with one of our local elderlies who had not gone to Topanga Mall for a couple of years because she felt that the Macy's had been hit with a smash and grab. She was actually talking about a video that she saw that happened 2 years ago that the media was still showing. So in her mind, it was still occurring, though, even though that store had not had one in years. So those are the true numbers. It is a violent crime. We are seeing significant reductions. Many of them have been from those crews have been arrested, and they're seeing some significant jail time. And we are definitely seeing as a popular crime. It's just not happening like it used to.
Julie, you got your hand up again. Another question from you. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Again, I just wanted to thank you, John, and thank you, Captain, for keeping us safe. My question has to do with the recent Airbnb in Winnetka that where a minor was shot and killed at a party house. And now that it's a matter of life and death, I was wondering, you're test marketing these drones here in Topanga Division, and you've said that you're going to use these for active burglaries, but what criteria do you have to also use these drones for other things, such as, I don't know, car chases or party houses?
Yeah. Again, Julie, I started this whole thing by saying the policy is not out yet. I'm not writing the policy. The program is not mine. It's being tested in Topanga. Until I see that policy as to what are the restrictions, what are the rules on it, I can't really speak on it. I'm conveying what the commander has told me as to how we plan on using it, and that will be conveyed to the police commission regarding how we're going to be using it. Those concerns that you have are definitely questions that, because I've heard it on a weekly basis. The police commission speaks to their interest in the drone program, but would I want them to deploy to a house party that's generating radio calls to get eyes on for my coppers that are responding to that? Yeah, I definitely would, because I see it as a tactical advantage if we have some eyes in the sky telling the coppers how many people are at scene, what is going on there, do they see any weapons. I want them to know that before going into an incident. That's just good police work and putting them in a position where they're a lot safer when they're getting some good, accurate information as to what they're looking at when they go, as we say, code 6 on the location.
Chris O, you've got a question. We do want to get to the community police and academy issues. Chris, a quick question for us. Go ahead.
I had two real
A
quick.
little louder for us, Chris.
I have two quick questions. One is based on what the captain was saying earlier, doesn't it make sense to keep like a front entry indoor light on 24/7 so that the house looks like it's constantly that there's somebody there all day long, whether you're up or not? And the second question is, I live near Platte Village and Fallbrook Mall, and my concern, because of posts on next door, is the safety of those locations at night. Is it safe to go over to those malls at night?
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, my advice to whatever it takes to make your house appear as if somebody is there, you do it. If that means lights on longer, if that means cars parked in the driveway, if that means making sure your mail is not stacked up or packages are stacked up, if that means neighbors walking in front of your thing, you do whatever it takes to have a plan to make your house look as is occupied, because very few homes that are burglarized, the target is to go in there and confront somebody. So that's my advice. Make it be known that there's somebody in your house, even if you're not there. And then your second question Is it safe to go to the Fallbrook Mall at night? Well, I could speak on crime trends. We don't, theft was down significantly last year. If that's your concern, that if you're shopping in the store and you're there when a theft occurs, those numbers are down. We had a 11% reduction last year, and we continue to see reductions in actual theft. We don't have the smash and grabs that we used to see that were occurring in the malls. Those numbers are down too. But again, the concerns that we see mostly are going to be property crimes, like cars being burglarized, cars being stolen. Those are always concerns. So just be smart. Suspects pick their targets. They're usually picking people that look like they're easy targets, that they're not going to fight back. They pick cars that are parked in dark areas. They pick cars that are leaving packages in front and that are inside the car that they can see. Those are easy targets. So do what you can to harden that target and be smart about what you do, and you're playing the odds better on your side that you're not going to be the one that gets targeted.
Well, Captain, I want to see if we can get some time in on the Community Police Academy as well. I know that that's something that Brittney has worked on, you have as well, and I know Shelley has one of our board members has attended that. Can we get an overview from either of you, as to any of you, as to what it is, why we should participate, how long it is, who can participate in, and I guess why? You know, it's a question: who, when, where, and why. So, feed us in. What's the Community Policing Academy all about?
So I can speak on this if that's okay.
Please.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the Community Police Academy. So this is for someone who is 18 years and older. You don't have any outstanding warrants, no pending criminal cases, that you live or you work in the Valley area. And this kind of takes, we have interns through our volunteer program, and these are some of our college students. We send them through, and we try and get the community to go to these events. And this is where you're going to have, a traffic enforcement officer talk to you about certain things about how they investigate traffics. Or you will have special weapons and tactics training. You will have terrorism awareness. We have detectives from the human trafficking unit that come and talk. And that one is where he talks about certain texting and what to look out for if you have kids in high school, or if you have kids that have cell phones. Some of the major emojis that can in turn mean something. You have your PSRs that work at the dispatch communication centers, and they're the ones that tell you how they funnel through calls, how they make it a code 3 call as opposed to a non-coded call. And so this is something that we want. We have some of the attorneys that talk to them about how they file cases. We have other detectives that come from the theft table, that come from the burglary table. And it's just to give you an insight of what us as law enforcement does on the opposite side.
And Shelley, have you got some input as to what your experience has been over there?
Yeah, sure. Last year, my husband and I attended the Community Police Academy, and I highly recommend it to everyone who can do it. It's a 7-week commitment. It's 6 to 8 in Granada Hills at the Edward Davis Training Center. And just to echo what Brittney said, every week there was a lecture period, a question and answer period, whether it was gang unit, terrorism, as she said, police communications. And there's also a hands-on component. We got to actually go to the shooting range, and we got to fire the beanbag rifles. And I have never fired any kind of weapon before, and it's really enlightening. It's shocking how heavy these beanbag rifles are, the pushback. So you get to do that. You also get to see the actual streets where, the officers do a lot of training, and you get to partake in a simulation. Sometimes it's the simulator that the officers use for training. At the time we did it, we actually had live action scenarios where officers acted out split-second decisions, and we were given the opportunity to be in on it. And I have to say that's one of the most effective things that we did, because you really get an understanding of a split second, possibly life or death decision that the officers are faced with. So you get to meet other community members and you really get an up close look, as the flyer said, of LAPD, and you get to hear about all of the changes and things that LAPD has done to make it one of the, best police departments in the country. So I highly recommend it. It starts tomorrow night. And I think John put up the flyer and it's in our email. You can message Officer Baldwin if you're interested and, take advantage of this great opportunity.
Somebody give us a contact. Who should we be contacting concerning that? It was on the flyer too, but there's another person you wanted to have contacted. What's an email for them?
For Todd Baldwin?
Yeah.
All right, yes. His email is, it's going to be 35721@lapd.online.
And what would they expect when they email it? What's going to come back? Is it an application or a
Yes.
reservation or what?
Absolutely. So, yeah, you can email Todd. He will then send you an application. Once you complete that application, send it on back to him, and he will turn it in. He'll turn it into OVB, and then you can show up and go through those 7-week process.
Is there a fee for the training?
No fee.
How many people have gone through it so far? Any idea?
I don't know from Topanga, but I know that they started doing these every 6 months right after COVID. And I know that they try and get at least 6 to 8 people from each division. And every time Topanga has always had 8 people go. So it's been quite a few.
Well, you may have.
So there's seven commands in the bureau, and times, let's say on average, some have as many as 10. This time around, we only have 1 representing Topanga, so our numbers are quite low. So the space at Davis is a classroom setting. I think it can accommodate up to 60 or 70 spots. So it's a great program. I go to the orientation, and then I go to the graduation, and I thank our Topanga community members that participate in the program. I think knowledge is power. The more you know about your police agency, the more effective you will be as part of the process to solve issues in your community. So I definitely encourage everybody to sign up. And when you do fill out the application, please make sure that you indicate you represent Topanga. I don't want other divisions getting credit for my great people.
Well, I have a feeling you may have more than 1 or 2 people that may be signing up this time around. I know I've certainly got my hand up, and I think that I'm going to try to work out so I can work my schedule in for that too. I think the more that we can do to interface with our police officers and for them to interface with us too, I think it's helpful all the way around. All of you do such hard work in our communities on things that are very, very difficult with people who are very, very difficult. How you do it on a day-to-day basis, I do not know, and still have some sanity in that particular process. But we certainly appreciate the efforts that you put in at that point. Do we have any more questions from anybody at this stage? Otherwise, I think we're about finishing up for this evening. We have, so who do we have here? We do have a question. Go ahead. It looks like it's Eileen. Is that you? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hi. First of all, thank you, John, and thank you, Captain. I really appreciate it. I have a question. This is on the burglaries. You said most of the people these gangs look for homes that are inviting in that they're dark. Are there a percentage where they have encountered people, and what happens in those situations?
Yeah, that's definitely our biggest concern is when you have a home invasion type incident. In most cases, it's extremely rare that the suspect knew that the home was occupied. And in most cases, when they do run into a person in the house, they take off as quickly as they came in. It's extremely rare in my experience that the suspect knew that the victims were home and they had any intention to do anything to that victim. Their intention was to grab what they could and run off with the property and not engage a victim. So, but it does happen. In those cases is more what John was alluding to, is the suspect followed the victim's home from a secondary location and were specifically targeting that victim through a robbery to take whatever he had on his person or his car as the target. But as you alluded to, if it's rare, it's rare. So do what you can to ensure that your house looks like it's occupied, and they're going to go to another home where it's dark and easy to get in and out in 5 minutes, take property and go undetected.
Okay, do you have
assume-
I had a second
Yes, go
question
ahead, Arnie.
on that. Do you have any thoughts on tasers versus for home protection?
Well, it goes back to what I indicated. If you're going to buy a mace, if you're going to buy a taser, if you're going to buy a weapon, just be proficient with it. Go practice with it and get mentally set that you're going to use this, and when you're going to use it, be proficient with it. We as officers are given the luxury to train and go through virtual reality programs to get us ready should we have to use a taser, how it's going to work. So I think if you're not proficient with it, if you don't do your research on it, many times it becomes a weapon that they use on you. So if you're going to use a taser, just research the one that you want. You have a right to protect yourself in any capacity. Just do the homework on it. Get a quality equipment and train on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Scott, you got your hand up. Go ahead. Unmute yourself, though. Scott, unmute yourself.
I'm working on it.
We got it.
Okay. On that note, we have a lot of coyotes in the area. And in the evening, when a lot of people walk their dogs, the coyotes are all over the place. What is legal for us to carry to prevent coyotes from possibly attacking? Could we carry mace or something like that? Is it legal? Is it illegal? I don't know, and I was curious.
You know, I walk my neighborhood and I have coyotes. I live in the foothills over here. I see them targeting animals and smaller animals, your pets. That they are also looking for the easy target, and they're not looking for humans. They're not looking to attack humans. They're afraid of humans. And if you carry a big stick, it's typically enough to deter them from targeting a human. But that's what I would recommend. Not all mace are good for certain kinds of animals. Again, that goes back to researching that. Can you carry it? You know, as long as you get certified, a license, and go through a class, you can probably carry that. But will it be effective for a coyote? I don't think so. I think based on what I've seen, if you make yourself large, if you make yourself known, they're not going to bother you or your animal. But I would carry a stick, a large stick. That would get, and most, unless it's got some kind of rabid illness and it's out of its mind, it's going to attack you maybe, but those are rare instances.
Well, Captain, it seems like they're cautioned all of us, whether it be against coyotes or follow homes or burglaries, what have you, is be alert, be preventative in that process, and don't get stuck in that situation to begin with. If we can possibly avoid it. Well, we all want to thank you for your service, certainly to the community, and certainly for your time with us tonight. We recognize that you have families, you have other things to be doing too, but we deeply appreciate the information to us. I think that the more educated we are in what you do and what we can do to help in that particular process is very important. Is there anything that you think that we as the homeowners organization can do to be of assistance to you besides just reporting those events that are going on that are just inappropriate? We're here to help in any way we possibly can. Is there anything we can do to help you?
No, I think you're doing everything. Being part of this process, being part of the association is huge. Being involved. Don't let my message stay with you. Talk to your neighbors. Unfortunately, one bad encounter. Everybody loves to talk about the bad encounter, but let's talk about the good stuff, the good information. Talk to your neighbors. There's a rule, and maybe Britt can. I just heard it from a slow. It's called 1 in 5. Know your two neighbors on your right and left, and know your two neighbors in the front, and then you is your fifth number. If you can have that relationship with them, they're your best best conduit to deter crime, neighbors taking care of neighbors, spreading good information, letting know what's going on, awareness, and you guys are part of that process just by being here today. So, but thank you for your time, allowing me for talking to you for 2 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and eat my dinner that my wife put together for me. So
We thank you for that. Again, God bless you. Please be safe out there. Again, thank you for your service and thank you for your time that you spent with us tonight. Again, if we've done anything that's been good for out here that you people listening and not members yet, please join us. WHHO.com. It's only $25 a year. Please, my thanks to all of you, and thanks to both you, to Captain, and also to Brittney as well. We hope to see you again, and please be safe out there, and we'll talk. God bless.
take care. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.